Hey everybody, welcome to the Water Tower Podcast. This is Jay Yoder, and next to me is
Mr. Nick Milan.
Mr. Nick Milan. That's nice, fancy. Please subscribe to our channel, hit the alerts if you want the alerts, and follow us on Instagram. Hit watertowerpodcast.com for all the episodes. We release usually stuff earlier on there than anything else, but YouTube and Instagram stories, check it out. But here we are on this fine day. Nick, how's it going? Nick, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's get into George Floyd.
George Floyd.
Let's call it the George Floyd murder. Do we go there? Do we call it that?
Fuck yeah, it's a
call
murder.
it that.
It's a fucking murder, dude.
It's a murder.
That's fucked up, Jay.
It's got, there's all the footage. In any court, it's about as good as evidence you're going to get. Multiple camera angles. I don't care if the guy is guilty, innocent, whatever. That's murder.
Right, but do you need that? Do you need all those camera angles? I mean...
You shouldn't, but
no.
it definitely helps in a court of law.
Right. Oh, well, especially in a case like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to say, I'm trying to think how good evidence could be in court. You know, there's always that angle. And we need more evidence. I'm like,
right.
This is pretty damn good.
Dude, it's almost
the best.
Yeah, it's the best. Right, exactly. There's no mistaking what's going on there. And from what I heard this morning, that he's been charged with murder. So
Charged?
Yeah, he's been charged and arrested.
So they'll go to court, or is it already gone through that?
No, he's gonna have to go to court. He's gonna be in jail. Hopefully with no bail.
Oh shit! Right, that's the catch. Netflix documentary coming up.
Oh, dude,
court
for sure.
case.
Huh?
They probably won't. I bet you they won't.
Light bulb?
What?
Light bulb?
Idea? We doing it? We gonna try to sell Netflix?
Let's do it.
Netflix. We got
Big
average 30 to 40 views on our clips on Instagram.
We're making it big, Netflix. Hit us up.
If you go to YouTube, you help us out more. But no, it's crazy, man. This happens all the time. There's probably 5 or 6 cases just floating around right now. And George Floyd, I don't know much about him, but typically with these cases, I try not to get emotionally involved, even though it's very hard. And I even chose not to watch the video. One, I tried watching it. I just saw the position, and just from being around and doing jiu-jitsu, you just know that's some fucked up shit that he's got his knee on that. I mean, his neck was turned to one side. He's an older gentleman. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit.
Should have never even got to that point, to be honest. I mean, you watch the video. I watched it right when it came out, and of course, it's just devastating, I mean, and this is just happening all too often, and that's why we have protests now and all this jazz and that we'll get to. But, right off the bat, initially when I seen it, the officer gets into the car and he pulls him out right away. It doesn't look like there's any confrontation, but next thing you know, within a minute or so, he's on the floor, and it doesn't seem like he did anything to cause that. And
it's well, first off, it's we just kind of reviewed play-by-play of it, and they got called at a looked like a mini mart or some type of store of a forgery call for the police. Yep. They show up. Now, George Floyd's car is catty corner to that store across the street. I mean, the cops probably didn't even pay attention to it. And him and a passenger are sitting in there, and the police go in there. Next thing you know, they come out and they're beelining for that car. Don't know what happened inside. Cop approaches. 2 cops on each side approach both gentlemen. I won't go too much in detail, but basically they leave the passenger alone and they focus on the driver.
Right.
Wrestle him down. And it does, it seemed like he might have been resisting, but not really, not enough for this. And then they walk him across the street. And next thing you know, he's slammed on the ground. He's got 3 mofos on top of him and a 4th cop protecting them from the group of people just noticing what the fuck's going on.
Just watching.
It's sickening. And they even admitted that they saw that he might have some health issues, some distress. So why the hell you got 3 dudes on his back?
Right. Yeah, the cops knew it, so they say they
reported it.
They reported it, right, that he had health issues. But yeah, I mean, it's too much. Yeah. It's too much. Why do you need all that? First of all, this should be just a civil conversation. Did you do something wrong? Did you not? Let's get on with our day.
Yeah, and he seemed like a cool dude. He posted a video. I don't think it was too long ago. I'm not sure, but it's just him talking about. I typically like to research the dudes. Who are these guys? Are they good dudes? Did they choose a life of crime? This is just some shit that happened and there's a history with the cops. Or are they good guys? It's just some innocent shit. And I like this guy. From what I could see so far, sound like he moved there to change his life. And he him and his girlfriend kind of said that, and he posted a video of just talking to young black men, I believe, or young men in the hood general, I guess, about shooting guns and they shouldn't be doing that. Come on, fucking don't throw your life away. And he seemed like he was a guy that loved that area too. He thought it was a very friendly area, which is crazy, and really enjoyed that area just from the people and the vibes he was getting. And seemed like a guy that liked to spread positivity from what I could tell.
You know what? I didn't do any research on him personally, but does it really matter? What if, say
it matters.
Say he did have a criminal background, right?
Well, yeah.
Does that deserve to be killed?
No, and he might have a criminal background. I don't know that, but I think I like to try to get a sense of their personality.
Who they are, right? I get you.
Because it also might show you what might be going on in that conversation that we can't hear between him and the cop. Sure. But it really doesn't matter, Nick, at the end of the day. For me, personally, it matters to me because I see a lot of people crying boo-hoo when a certain mofo gets shot that we all know has a gun at every party and is a gangster and a big tough guy. And then once he's dead, his mom cries and everyone's like, whatever. So to me, it matters because I believe you choose a life and you know the consequences. But I don't think this is the case at all. I think this guy, no matter innocent, guilty, whatever, got fucking murdered by a cop.
Yeah, right. And not the first time. And unfortunately, it's not going to be the last, man. And then now you see these protests and it's so many ways to look at these protests, Jade. It's only been a matter of days. It's amazing. It's like there's already stories popping out of every freaking direction. This most recent one, that photo of that alleged officer, starting the riot, smashing windows at AutoZone.
Yeah, alleged officer walked up, I think it was an AutoZone or something, and just had an umbrella and like a mask cover, definitely like white dude, just like generic white dude, how size and everything, and just broke some windows and then booked it. I'm like, and a black kid approached him, or a young man approached him and was like, yo, what are you doing? Stop that. Because
confronting him. The
protests, honestly, are horrible because protests are reasons for anyone arguing this case to say, look what they did, or even racist, look, this is what these motherfuckers do. They burn the whole city down. They want nothing. Why do we even put targets in their neighborhood? That feeds the fire on the other side. But at the same time, Nick, you text me, you're like, I think something different's going on.
Dude, you never know what's going on. But first, protests, they do something, right? And there's always going to be opposition from each side, But yeah, it's definitely an essential part of what we have to do, and even when the Trump, well, not Trump, but the, anti virus kind of people are out campaigning and protesting at the Capitol and stuff, even though I don't agree with that, I think it's intriguing, that they can get out there and express their opinion and be together and send these messages. And so just gathering all together is so important to what we have in this country. But we don't utilize it as much as we should.
Yeah. And, I don't think I'm a white straight male,
Are you sure? I don't know about that Kill Tony episode. Might have.
Yeah, white straight male, so maybe this says something, but I've never protested, but I'm also that guy. I have football rallies, I played football, and I would always ditch them. I hated that shit. I hate the hoorah-rah groups, even with serious issues, and I feel like if there was no one protesting, then you would see me out there. I'm like, fuck, these motherfuckers need help, but I'm like, they're good. But I also just don't fucking think a protest is going to do shit, and I know that's naive and ignorant, but Che Guevara didn't fucking pick up a stick and a paper and write something cool on it and march around. No, he did not. All know, and I'm not saying what he did is right. Only history will tell down the road. He's a hero and he's a murderer at the same time. But it's, I just never feel the need. I don't want to be a part of a group because groups I've thought about joining 2 years later, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't join that group. Holy crap.
Well, and how much of that can be verified? Like this particular instance with this alleged officer starting the riots, right? It was a peaceful protest until this guy started breaking windows, and then allegedly that's how it started. I have no idea.
Is that how the violence started, that guy?
Well, that's how the looting started, breaking in windows and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course you get, some people in this, kind of rage mentality, all the stuff like you mentioned earlier is going on.
Fuck the system.
Levels. Fuck the system, right? Everyone hates us. You can kind of see where that would lead to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of inevitable. But, say this video never got released of this guy. Say it's not even a cop. Who knows? Maybe it's nothing. But what if it is? And this happens multiple times. It happens all the time. We talked about it on the last podcast, I think, about officers infiltrating movements like this to create drama, to then create these movements as scapegoats to like terrorist movements. Or, you know, I remember when the Black Lives Matter movement got labeled as a terrorist group because some random guy went in and started creating violence and ended up not being part of the group at all.
Yeah, it's happened since the dawn of time when all the time, United States took over California, New Mexico, Texas, and whatever other states. I just heard this today. Fact check me because I just heard it on a whim and didn't have a chance to really check it. But it was like, they tried to get it, and Mexico was like, nah. And so but Mexico was like, you guys could send settlers, no charge. Like, go ahead. But that wasn't good enough. So they apparently dressed up like some Mexicans or something and started attacking soldiers, some fake. It's been the Vietnam War. It's always happened, you know. Right. Red flags like that. It's happened in Hong Kong with China. It's something. Yeah. Even the Boston Tea Party, they dressed up like Native Americans, you know. Right. It's just a situation that continues to happen, and it's a smart move if you're on a side that wants to win.
Well, and you know what? I was in an Uber car the other day, getting an Uber downtown, and the driver, you know, we were just talking about small talk, and it got to a point where it's like, yeah, well, you know, we need a movement. We need some kind of movement, you know, and we're talking about what was going on. And I, you know, I kind of thought like, it's almost too hard to create a movement nowadays because of exactly that. If you create a movement, you can easily be labeled as a bad group. And then media, social media, of course, you know, big media, they can really paint a picture and break the whole movement. So yeah, you're right. Do things change? Are things going to change? Probably not, man. But I think rioting and, you know, people are pissed about that. And although I don't agree with it, and I probably wouldn't do something like that myself, I think that, you know, hey, you need to create something for people to listen. Like, people are talking about this all over the world now. Yeah. And this is why. Yeah. Where if you were just sitting there with a couple signs, you know, it would only go so far. So.
Well, and our attention span is so short these days, especially with social media and the internet being more a part of everyone's life. It's around the world. It's news is hot and new today, and tomorrow it's old news. And I think protests do keep this situation alive, where the news would just jump on the next fucking thing. Trump tweeted something, or, you know, whatever. Right. Fill in the blank. But so I think in that sense it's important. And I had this conversation with my girlfriend. It's like, as a white guy, what can I do? And not saying I'm going to do whatever someone tells me to do, because, like I said, if you say protest, I'll probably be like, maybe. When the numbers are low, I'll go out there. But, like, I'm not just that dude. But, like, it's like, what can I do? You're a Hispanic man. What would you say to me if I said, what could I do to be an ally? Since I was probably 22, 23, 24, I've gotten involved in reading up on these issues, and grew up in a Hispanic town, so I definitely saw different sides of things. But, like, what would you say is something that a white person could do for a person of color or minority? What could they do?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's $1 million question, you know, and it always has been. And it's for people like you that are savvy into certain issues and injustices, you feel that way, you know. And to be honest, I don't have an answer for that. You know, as a Hispanic man, I would never know what it is. I mean, we get killed as a people too. Actually, I just seen a video that came out today where this kind of Chicano gangster-looking dude got shot in his driveway and got murdered. And someone was filming it, probably his family member, from the house. So it's devastating. It really is. But it's funny that you say that, and I don't have the answer, and I don't think anybody does. But this guy I saw on Facebook today, he was a white guy, kind of a redhead dude, and he took this picture and posted on Facebook.
Redheads, the worst. Worst of the white people. Just kidding.
And so anyway, so he's driving his car. He passes a police car that pulled over a car full of young black men. And so he automatically thought, oh no, like, you know, please no, let's not something happen here. So he felt the need to stop around the corner, get off his car, go across the street, walk across the street, and stand there and just watch. Okay. And just to make sure that nothing was going to happen. He took a couple photos, but he was just standing there because he felt like, if there's anything I can do, it's at least help my brothers and sisters survive, you know, to make sure that nobody gets killed, and just to keep a watch. And it's actually a hashtag, policing the police. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, you know, but I kind of like where he was going there, right? It's like, and then he even says at the end of it, the cops like, you know, let him go, and then they look at these guys across the road, because he said by then there's like 4 or 5 people on his side of the road looking.
Yeah.
And the cops point over there and they start laughing at him and like, you know, kind of shunning him. And dude, as unfortunate as it is that we have to come to that, like maybe that's what it is. It's sticking up for people, sticking up for our brothers and sisters. And really, as someone that's a white guy like yourself, and I'm just saying this out of thought, is, you know, to explain to the people that don't have that mentality that you have, maybe family, friends, or people that you know that, you know, may be way on the other side, and just try to explain, break it down, I guess, you know, because it would be different.
Awkward Thanksgivings.
Oh, totally awkward Thanksgivings. But you know what, and I see on Twitter all the time, you know, there'll be this kind of thread of people arguing, and, you know, some white people get involved and they'll say a few things, and then, you know, then a couple like black or ladies or men or whatever get involved and say, hey, don't talk about it like you know about it, because you know nothing about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's real, you know, and it's, even for me, it's hard to speak on something like that, but
yeah, it's real, and it gets dicey when it comes to race. And you often say,
totally,
like, you know, it's a human race, black race, white race, Mexican race. It's really
that's a made up word.
Race.
Yeah, race is actually a made up word.
Yeah, the book Sapiens talks about we make up all these issues. You know,
right.
The lion doesn't care. I probably already said this. Lion doesn't care what color you are; it's going to eat your ass. You know, you got to protect yourself. But I think, you know, you see stuff like that, and on my day to day, like if I see people in trouble, just the other day there's someone broke down in the alley, and like I usually when they have kids, especially, is when I step in. Kids or elderly people. Sure. But, you know, sometimes you just get the feeling and you do something. And it's not like I'm like, oh, they're black, let me go help them. And that's something where in San Francisco I got a little weirded out by. It was almost like treating black people a little too nicely, and a little like you could tell they're uncomfortable. And it was like,
interesting.
Dude, just fucking treat them like a normal dude. Like it's a person. Like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are supposed to be this like strict city of like on the black man's side, but you guys are almost treating them differently. Like, I don't know. It seems I got a different weird side to San Francisco.
Way like, on the other side of the spectrum.
Like, just, hey, whatever you want. Okay, gotta go by. Fuck you. You know, like, and then they like go wherever in their Beamer and drive off. You know, and the thing continues. But it is weird, and you do see like white people do that, and they're like, oh, you could do that because you're white privilege. And I'm like, don't say that. Like, because there are white people on the side of minorities, and there's a lot of white people on the fence, and there's a lot of white people on the other side of the fence. But when you say stuff like that, or you say, I heard today, you take one of ours, we're going to take 2 of yours. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a white dude. I'm like, does that mean me? Like, you don't know who I support or what I do, but like, you're going to push me to the other side of the fence, because at the end of the day, how are prisons ran, Nick? Right. Race.
Yeah. They sure are.
Black race, white race. Everyone goes into their color. Mm-hmm. And there was a story of a prison that they took it over. They got, you know, what do they call that? Where they took over a prison? I forget. Mm-hmm. Took over the prison, got all the COs out, and then, you know, the cops had to come negotiate from outside the fences.
Oh, shit.
And how did they organize inside? They organized by race. The whites got this certain area, the blacks got a certain area, the Mexicans got a certain area, you know, the others got a certain area, and they would have a leader of each, and they would come and meet and discuss about how they were going to negotiate with the outside police force. Mm. And it's like, whoa, is that like they had no rules and they still went that way? Right. Safety and your people like you, right? It's weird.
Well, and you know, it's funny that you say that, and this is a huge topic, Jay, and we can get deep into this, but this is going to be a little limb of that topic. But you know, segregation, right? And J. Cole says it in one of his songs, like, you know, maybe segregation was better. And it's like, you know, when you're around your community, you do stuff together, you build communities, you create wealth in your own communities. Yeah. And then when you need other communities, you reach out, and there's always those neighboring communities that you can reach out to, right? And even in early tribalism days, you know, you have tribes that, you know, reach out to one another. And I'm not saying that it's not good. I mean, integration is obviously, you know, bringing people together in communities, but look at that, what you said in prison, you know, these, even though they probably don't even like each other, but they're willing to work together because there's a common enemy, right? Or
but still separate.
But still separate, right?
That's exactly what the KKK says. Oh no, we just believe in segregation, you know.
Well, that's you know, equal but separate, or separate but equal, or something like that. I mean, obviously that's way you know, tipped extreme on the scale, right? But and again, I'm not saying that we should resort to that, but it's just an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's I mean, in South Africa, and I don't know if you're familiar with the townships. They had basically, like we've had segregation up until the 50s or 60s. They had it up until the early 90s, and when Nelson Mandela came in power, disrupted that. But they had these townships where they were just sending these black people. Now these are just like shacks, miles and miles of shack towns, shanty towns, and when we were over there in 2010, like we heard some people from those towns say it was better before Nelson Mandela because at least we had electricity, we had running water in this crap hole. We it just got a little worse. So in South Africa when we went there, there's people in the shanty towns that were like, Nelson Mandela, it was better before him because we had electricity here. Now we haven't for years. And I get what they're saying, but I think you really, your day-to-day you got to think about, but you also got to think about generational and like you agreeing to that electricity to a white-dominated country at that time. What does that mean for your kids, your grandkids, and da-da-da-da-da? And South Africa is pretty fucked, South Africa is nuts, but I don't think that's a reason not to do something, It's crazy. I think once different types of people mix and the generations of mixed kids come out and everyone's kind of got something in them or not one person's white or black.
Damn near mixed. There.
Damn near there. And I think that's going to be when things probably chill out. But honestly, human nature is to argue. And I assume then it's going to be light skin versus dark skin. You could go to Rwanda, wide noses versus thin nose of certain tribe. It's crazy.
Yeah, right. It totally is. And they're politically too and religiously, and there's always division. But going back to just kind of what's going on in the protest, and I hope it doesn't stop. I hope it doesn't stop. I know that there's going to be things that interfere, like this guy creating the rioting, and then basically letting people kind of continue off of that, feed off of that. But it needs to continue, and
it might have been confirmed. I'm not 100% that guy was an actual cop. His ex-wife called him out, but I don't know if that's fake news.
Yeah, right. And who knows what is real, right?
Yeah.
And I seen that too. His ex-wife called him out, said that those were her gloves and her mask and everything.
Yeah.
But then the PD, of course, came out and said, no, that's not one of our officers.
Okay.
So, obviously there's going to be some different stuff going on, but it looks like it's him. And to be honest, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's real or not, especially when you see this deep fakes and AI and stuff, or you could literally have me talking and not be me. It's crazy.
Right. Well, and then I think we mentioned last time also, MK Ultra is a real thing, man.
Yep,
so who knows how many of these people actually know what the fuck they're even doing?
Well, I was thinking this. It's I don't think this would work, but it was an idea because I'm like, how do we fix this fucking system? Maybe there's an answer, but I was thinking, in like Hasidic Jewish communities, they have their own police and ambulance and stuff like that. Hasidic Jews are like the hardcore guys in like Harlem with the black hats and the curls, very religious, like the extreme Jewish religion. And I think in London, certain Muslim neighborhoods, they have a type of religious police too. Like if they see a girl with a short skirt, they're going to berate her and kind of scare her off. Would there be a black police force? Would that be successful, or would that just be two police forces fighting with each other, or would the government even allow it?
Who knows? I mean, again, I wouldn't know, but I would say why not try it?
Yeah, why not every time someone's pulled over, especially if it's a black male that gets pulled over, a female or a black person, and the cops have to go, okay, hold on, we got to get the black community cops to come up. Kind of like how they have a female officer usually pat down a female.
Right.
Maybe it needs to be that way. I don't think that's a clear-cut answer, but I don't know. It could be something.
Well, and trying stuff, right? I mean, just do something. And I think that's what these people want mostly is not only do they want justice, right? They want these people to be charged with what they should be charged with. They want to see something happen. They want to see change. Do something. Whatever it is. Just
same old shit ain't working.
Same old shit ain't working. And then denying and just beating around the bush and, that sort of thing. Be direct and, kind of with the whole reparations thing too. There's Tallahassee Coates. Have you ever read his?
No.
It's a good article on reparations. Yeah. So, I mean, just doing something, right? I mean, we got to try things, see if they work. I think, maybe that'll work. Maybe it wouldn't. But it does bring me to a post that a police department posted on Facebook, and it was pictures of their law enforcement. And it basically said, we can put a picture of this guy choking this man to death and say that we don't agree with it, But we'd rather you look at all these photos of our police officers doing things that don't ever get looked at, that are going overlooked every single day. And it's photos of these police officers in neighborhoods playing football with kids or you know, talking with kids in the street or whatever. And I've seen that, dude, and I've experienced stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully we don't get to a point where it just creates an even bigger divide.
Yeah, and I think that's always the goal. I always talk about this. The goal is to keep the racism alive, and the media wants us to fight with each other because if we unite, and sadly the minorities get the short end of the stick,
right.
But like if we unite, we have to look up. And when you look up, you'll see who has the money, who has the power, and that's where the real problem is. And it's probably mostly rich white guys, but I'm telling you, a rich white guy can identify with my half brother that grew up in one of the worst trailer parks I've ever seen in Peoria, Illinois, you know? And I've been to other countries, and this is one of the worst living situations I've ever seen in my life. And with us and them and us, it's like, you know, a lot of cops have come out and said that was murder. A lot have come out.
Right, I've seen that too. And
I was watching TikTok where a cop was sitting in a parking lot late at night in a gas station, you know, on his patrol, and he's like, great, cops are hated again, so hope I don't get shot up tonight.
That's tough.
You know, especially when you're a good cop too. It's like,
right.
But it's a situation that, as a good cop, you need to recognize and come out and say, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong.
Well, totally. And you know, we can go deep into that too, and I'd rather not. But I did see another post on Facebook today, and it said, if you had 10 cops for 1,000, or 10 bad cops for 1,000 good cops, and the 1,000 good cops don't call out the 10 bad cops, then you have 1,010 bad cops.
Yeah, I agree, because it's also like the argument of when like September 11th happened, like, oh, fuck the Muslims and this and this. And it's like, dude, like that's extremist Muslims, just like extremist anything. But it's like, well, then why aren't the normal Muslims calling out the extremist Muslims? And which some have, and it's very more predominant now. But it's like, it does say something when someone from the own community is like, hey, no, we don't agree to this. We're not a part of this. What we do is different. This is bad.
Well, and you know what I didn't want to get into is the blue code, right? It's there, man. You know, it's there, and they got to watch out for each other. And I'm sure it's like that in the military. I wouldn't know, but I've heard and read stories about, you know, brotherhood and you know, being there for each other no matter what. So you know, I get it, but people are dying. You know, people are dying, and there's no code that should be that should trump that. You know.
And going out and shooting up a bunch of cops, I don't think is the answer. No, because you're going to create a bigger divide, and you're going to push people on the other side.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just a sad situation. And man, George Floyd, shout out to that guy.
Rest in paradise,
rest in peace, man. And it's